So today I am here with Neha Saraswat, and she is the Group Product Design Manager at Intuit. And at UX India conference, she is a part of the design leadership panel. And today we will be having a discussion with her on leadership, on her journey, and more about the women who are in the leadership in today's world. So a very warm welcome to you, Neha, and I'm really looking forward to this discussion.
Thank you, Akriti, for inviting me over.
Yeah. So, like my first question to you is that since you have been in the leadership industry for a long time, you have been in this role for a long time. So, what does it really mean to you, like leading with impact? What does it really mean?
There are different aspects of impact, and for me, or I think in general, for design leadership to be impactful, we need to be aware as to how are we making those changes in our teams,
Right.
in our culture, and then eventually, of course, to the business and the company.
Right.
So for me, impact means on all four levels, being able to bring changes that are positive in nature.
Right.
And I do see impact as a culmination of a very slow process.
Right.
And every day you do something, and then at some point in time, it all kind of comes together.
Right. So it's more like 1% every day, and then it adds up.
Yeah, you do one thing every day.
Right.
And eventually it will become
Right.
impactful.
Right, the power of consistency. Absolutely. So, can you tell us a little bit about your role at Intuit since you are the Group Product Design Manager?
Okay, yeah, the title is long, but
Right.
in general, a management role in design is always two-folded.
Right.
Or in fact, three-folded. One is when you are managing or creating structures that will make the work happen and keep the work interesting for everybody. Let's say that's in a lot of program management or project management aspect of it, but there is enough creativity in that.
Right.
Then there is a layer of strategic thinking, forward thinking, where you are, as a design leader, you would always be contributing to whatever is going to be there in future.
Correct.
And that's the other aspect of this job. And the third aspect, and the most important aspect of the job, is to nurture the talent that you have and attract the talent that you think is very, very important. So always understanding the talent pool, understanding where they fit in maybe, and where their aspirations are.
Right.
So these are the three aspects of my day-to-day job, so to say.
Right.
In all of this, there are different flavors of leadership that you would want to bring in.
Right.
For Intuit, this role kind of is the highest level of management role, which is not... so we have officers, and then we have managers,
Right.
and then we have, there's three different aspects of work.
Right.
So this role is not an officer role.
Right.
This is why it is very ingrained into day-to-day work,
Right.
but it also kind of informs the strategies of the future.
Right, right. So, as you were mentioning that, the leadership style includes different flavors. So, is it like adopting to different situations and circumstances accordingly?
Yeah, and I will be naive to not say that, but at the same time, when is it not? Right?
Right.
But at the same time, situational leadership is one aspect, but at some point you become a more thorough, consistent, homogenized model of yourself,
Right.
More oiled model of yourself, and that is what kind of takes care of most of the situation.
Right.
And that's one of the things that I think I should be more aware of, that we keep on thinking that, okay, it's done before and this way, and so probably it will work.
Right.
But every time you have to invent yourself again
Right.
and see that, oh, it probably doesn't work the same way every time.
Right. So it's all about reinvention and constantly refining the approaches. Right. That was quite insightful. So Neha, I'm really curious to ask this question to you that, often design leaders talk about getting a seat at the table. So once you are at that level, like how do you make sure that your decision making process has a good influence on the overall, like everyone who is on the table, and you have that strong hold of your decisions?
Oh, this is a very loaded question. And I probably answered it in yesterday's panel as well.
Right.
That over the years, and especially now, I have realized that whatever you know and do, and whatever your talent is accounts for, is only 1% of everything. Then comes your ability to be there and listen to the other person, understand their context, help them in one way or other to bring their context out. And I will tell you that I don't consider myself 100% successful, and I can be very candid about this, that although influence is easier to make for somehow for to a lot of creative people, and so because of my design background, I can just quickly churn out ideas.
Right.
I can quickly talk about what I'm thinking,
Right.
and draw and explain. This way, influence is easy, but long-term partnership, when it comes to it, it becomes a little more of an effort,
Right.
for everybody. And I think for me specifically, because being a person who doesn't look like, but I don't want to talk a lot. Being a person who doesn't want to talk a lot, who doesn't want to meet a lot of people, but if for leadership, you have to consistently create that connection and nurture the connection with your peers and superiors, so that eventually when the day comes when you are at a critical position of making or breaking an idea, you can ask for help. You can get your ideas through. And I don't consider myself 100% successful in that, but I am working on it.
That's really good to know. And I actually, like, through this discussion, I'm getting an insight into, how your working style is and what really goes on behind these leadership roles. So that has been pretty insightful. So since, you are a woman at a leadership position, so would you like to talk more about it from your perspective, being a woman? Anything that you would like to share in that space?
Women in leadership is a very deep subject to talk about, because you would see around that we all start 50%.
Right.
Sometimes for designers, you'll have more women than men at the start of the
Correct.
pyramid, or then as you grow up, you see less and less of them.
Right.
And you keep on asking that question, that where are these people?
Right.
Where are these people that you invested time and effort with?
Right.
Let's say. And just yesterday, I was talking to someone, and she said that I have a 1.5-year-old child, and I want to spend more time with the child. And it struck me so hard that this person has already spent 15 years in industry. That's my assessment. She did not tell me how many years she's been working. But after that, suddenly pause.
Correct.
And that is one thing that struck me and keep on striking me again and again. And this might be a long answer, but bear with me.
Okay.
And I'm going everywhere, but I still bring it home.
Right.
This one thing is very, very striking. Then I reflected, what did I do?
Right.
And why did I keep pushing forward? So I realized that it is not about anything else but strange circumstances that I put myself in. And I thought that I will have a wriggle room to get out of it, but I had none eventually. And I did not take a break. And I did not spend that time with my child.
Right.
And I don't regret it.
Right.
That said, that is just me. And I don't think that it is everybody's choice. Everybody has their choices.
Right.
And sometimes I think, oh, my child is different because I did not spend time with him.
Right.
Or something like that, right? And you keep questioning your choices as well a lot of time. Now, this is one aspect of your investment and what the cost could be for someone. And that kind of goes with the men as well. They are also not spending enough time with their children. They are just not feeling guilty about it.
Right.
Or probably they are. I don't know.
But they don't express it out loud, maybe.
So that's one aspect of it. That is the cost of keep investing in your career.
Right.
But the second aspect of it is I really liked it. I really liked working when I was not spending time with my child as well.
Right.
And all of the years, has that interest gone down in my work? I don't think so. The first day of my work till now, I do still want to be invested,
Right.
with leadership or not.
Right.
So that's the second aspect. The third aspect is, are corporates bringing us up? Are there enough positions for us? All of that. It's a very detailed discussion. It's another level of discussion.
Right.
And you would want to not, and I want to get into that, but probably that's something that a systemic change needs to happen. A fundamental thinking change needs to happen.
Right.
So yeah, it depends on what exactly are those. Okay, so the point that I was trying to make is the third aspect is when you do not see your kind, you don't know how to relate to the other kind.
Right.
Be it of any nature. If I am an introvert and extroverts are there, I feel overpowered all the time. So that also goes for the other gender.
Right.
And then it takes a lot of effort to get out and be there and keep pushing your agenda.
Right.
Keep loving your work that you loved so much.
Right. To be passionate enough to not put it aside.
Yeah.
Right. Right. So I think from everything that you spoke right now, the issue could be like from the foundation levels itself, and then trying to break that and change that would, as women leaders, require a lot of effort, and as you said, some trade-offs as well. And of course, the love for your work and passion for your work always comes in handy during those moments. So I think as an aspiring leader in the future, I will remember this conversation that we had. So moving forward to our discussion, I wanted to understand that at Intuit, how are you integrating AI into your work or your leadership style, or how is it with your design team, or how is it happening on the base level?
I recently gave a talk on this, and I can refer back to that. For about 3 years, we have been incorporating Gen AI into the work. But what I was seeing very consistently that my team included, were trying to get, how do I say this? Whatever is written, because writing doesn't come very easy to us.
Correct.
Right? A lot of designers would rather draw than write.
Right.
So, and prompting was writing.
Right.
So what was happening a lot is that whatever written material we were getting, we were just putting it together and passing it to one or other kind of generative AI tool and see what comes out.
Right.
Right. But I realized that this is not going to cut. It is not going to make us the leaders in even adapting the AI into our work.
Right.
So we came up with a framework saying that, okay, let's look at the double diamonds all over again.
Right.
And earlier in a team setting, a double diamond was influenced by people. Now let's try to influence the double diamond with and then we kind of brainstorm, said, okay, what were people bringing in? They were bringing in dimensionality of, let's say, their culture, their social background, their economical point of view, their political point of view, all of that, and what they thought of what good looked like for them,
Right.
and what great product looked like for them.
Right.
All those mood boards that people were creating at the start of the diamond. How do you incorporate or get that goodness into the process where the Gen AI is involved?
Absolutely.
And then we kind of started feeding that as prompt.
Wow.
And we have had amazing results.
Wow.
So yeah, so that I think combining those two actually gave us better, more meaningful results than ever.
Right, right. So that would have been a lot of tried and tested prompts and methods to reach over here.
Yeah, and also failures.
Of course, that's a part of the process where you try, test a lot, and you fail, and then those learnings come in handy. Right. So, the tech world, the design industry is rapidly changing at the moment, and AI is taking over so many things. Even some parts of our job are becoming easier by using AI. So, as a leader, how do you think the next generation leaders will have to, adapt to these changes, and what is it that they will have to do in their future leadership roles to be able to, be effective in that role with these rapid changes happening?
So I have realized that when you're trained as a designer, you're trained as a holistic designer.
Right.
You can research, you can content write, you can put a marketing pitch together, you can do a brand, you can put the pilot production details, you can do engineering details. If you're a graphic designer, you can do all the nuances of how print of all kind of printing techniques.
Correct.
Will work with your design, all of that.
Correct.
But when you start practicing, industry takes a slice of that and gives it to you, right? Now what is going to happen, and this is all me speculating, or maybe not, that people will become leaders from the day. I always believe that the designers are leaders from the day one.
Right.
But it will be more evident that they'll be in leading thinking from the day one. They will be able to spend their time into things. They can look ahead. So they're not just designing for now, they're always designing for future.
Right.
And it will be possible because we will not be bound by the drudgery of the day-to-day work.
Right.
The mundane will be taken away. I am hoping. I'm really, really hoping the mundane will be taken away, and the exciting will come around.
Yeah, definitely. That is definitely true. And I think with these changing times, there are always curiosity and excitement on what's next. How do we adapt ourselves to these changes? So yeah, that is definitely right. So would you have any suggestions or any, maybe actionable steps for current designers who are, looking forward to stepping into leadership roles in the future?
I can tell you what I did not do and I think that I should have done, and
Okay.
probably that can help.
Right. That would be really helpful.
I never thought of myself as a people connector.
Okay.
I only thought of myself as the best work creator
Right.
and the quality warrior or innovation champion, all of that. But I never thought of myself as people connector. And as recently as, let's say, last month, I keep learning that my role and roles previously were significant primarily because it also connected people. So invest in people as much as you can. Whatever investment I could do into people came out of pure, how do I say, if I worked with someone, I liked them, and incidentally, I liked a lot of people, but that happened naturally. I did not consciously try to invest in people.
Right.
But if I was to kind of, I become young again and I'm starting and I'm trying again as well.
Right.
But I would try to see it from that angle. The second thing that I would also want to do early on, and that probably I did in pockets, but everybody should do it, is to always relate whatever we are doing into a framework. Okay, I did this. This worked. It looks nice.
Right.
It is acceptable.
Right.
It is scalable. It is going out in the product. But how did I come up with it? How was it so evident to me right now? And eventually, what makes it viable?
Right.
Reflecting on those and putting a framework for yourself will help a long way.
Right.
The third thing and most important thing is always look ahead in the future, because you are never creating for today. You are always creating for tomorrow.
Absolutely.
And tomorrow is today in a blink.
Right. That is absolutely correct. So about your second point where you were mentioning about whenever you crack something, so there has to be a framework behind it. So does the documentation of the framework help in solidifying it, or like creating a framework of the entire process? Like, how can designers really do that?
So I, as young designer, I always thought that it is dogmatic to read and implement a process as is.
Okay.
And one of the things that I keep on hearing that, because this process is so we are doing it this way.
Right.
And this kind of almost made me not like it.
Right.
But intuitively, those processes are there, or these frameworks were created primarily because somebody had a success with it.
Right. Absolutely.
So when I look back and see what made any of my work successful, were certain core constituents.
Right.
And when I documented them, then I realized the value that not just me, but probably the immediate teams
Right.
can get out of it.
Right.
Right? It may look tedious to, let's say, put together a journey, and you would not want to create the customer journey as somebody else doctored or
Right.
prescribed to you.
Right.
But when you do, you will realize the uniqueness of the one that you have encountered or seen or observed. Unless you do that, unless you document, a lot of things are not evident.
Correct.
When you have documented 2 or 3, immediately you are able to make connections.
Right.
And it is not just for you. For immediately your teams will start aligning.
Right.
It's easy to communicate.
Becomes actionable.
Yeah, it's oh my God.
Learning from you.
No, you're good.
Thank you.
Yeah, so that's what. It's very visible then.
Right.
And that's what one of my leaders used to say, that our job as designers is make invisible visible.
Absolutely.
Evident.
Right. Absolutely. So,
Yeah.
So I think in our conversation, we have touched on a lot of topics, and if we want, if we would have wanted, we could go much deeper into those and, have a lot more conversations. But here I would like to conclude our discussion. And next up, I have a very fun segment, which is like a rapid fire round. So I'll be asking you some questions and you have to give one word answers for it. So are you ready for it?
I hope.
You are. I can say that. All right. So here's the first question. Describe yourself in one word.
Stubborn.
Wow, I like that. So next one is what is one book or a movie that you find inspiring, or you would like to watch it or read it again and again?
Again, if I finish it. But just to kind of move the pages ahead and back, The Art of Looking Sideways.
Okay.
I think the book inspired me the first time that I saw that move through pages.
Right.
And it still remains very relevant. It also kind of my kind of book,
Right.
where I want to kind of be lost.
Right. I'm sure everyone, has that kind of genre or that kind where they would just want to keep reading and just lose ourselves in it. Right. The third question is, what's the best part about your entire day?
Mornings,
Okay.
the first hour that I spent at work is not touching, looking at email. I am usually dumping all of the ideas that come to me. Not many these days, but yeah. But whatever, that's the best part of it. Yeah, morning 7 to 10, I think, is the best.
Right.
Where I'm trying to get to solve, get my mind working.
Right. A fresh start with a calm, peaceful way. That's nice. And our next question is that what do you love about UX India?
I've been coming to UX India for many, many, many years.
Wow.
I do think that Hyderabad needs this conference.
Absolutely.
The Hyderabad community needs this conference. I like that a lot of youngsters are enrolling, coming in.
Right.
And there is an opportunity to meet them, which is very rare otherwise, unless you're going out and teaching them in their campuses. And in so many ways, meeting newer, fresher talent is one of the most important and exciting part of UX.
Well, absolutely. That must be it. And even for us, it's really exciting to meet design leaders like you.
Thank you.
So, last question. If not design, what other field would you have been in?
Mathematics, I think.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. My sister is a physicist.
Okay.
So I would have been similar, I guess.
That's wonderful to know. So thank you so much, Neha, for taking out time for this conversation. I had a lovely time speaking with you.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for coming to UX India this time.
Thank you for inviting.